All right, guys, welcome back. It's now Sunday, April the 6th, I believe, and we're back on the 1958 Triumph TR3A project. And this is a project to replace the stock steering components with a Bastuck rack and pinion steering. So this is part two of that conversion process. All right, part one, I believe we left off, we were talking about removing the existing steering components. So we're just about to start doing that. And we're gonna go after this center bar here, the center link bar. And we talked about these silent blocks. There's one here on this side. It's got a nut just on the bottom there. You can probably see that. And then there's one on this side. You may notice I've just moved the steering over to get to this side a little bit easier. This is the side that has a little less area to work with because of that steering box being there. So we're going to work on this side, which is I find is the more difficult part first. And then we'll try to swing it over to this side and do the same thing on the drop arm side of things, steering control arm, whatever you want to call it. All right, pitman arm, another term. Anyway, let's get the pickle forks out and we'll go to work. All right, we've got my air hammer ready to go here with my medium-sized pickle fork. I do have a smaller size if need be, and you can swap that out. We do have the nut off the bottom of that silent block on the driver's side, so we're just about to try to buzz that off of there. So let me set you up on the tripod and we'll see if you can follow along. All right, let me just get my gloves on. Like I said, it's cold out in the garage, and any tool that you touch out here, it's pretty chilly. I think it's only about 7 degrees Celsius out here, about 45 Fahrenheit this morning, so spring still has not sprung. All right, let's go. Let's see if this works. Like I said, I'm gonna have to swap out to a smaller fork, but we'll give this one a shot. There we go. See that one pop? All right, so we're going to do the same process now. Hopefully you're able to see that. Now we'll go after this side. I could probably maybe set you up over here. Let me just check. See if you can see that's not the best angle for me to work. Hopefully I don't knock you over here. You could centralize this a little bit. All right, here we go. So I got to take the nut off the bottom of this one. It's not quite all the way off yet. I'll bring it back. All right, here we go on the passenger side. All right, so those are detached. Let's move now to the outer ball joints, which connect to the steering arms. We'll get those popped off. All right, here's what we're going after next. You can see this ball joint here on the steering control arm coming off the back of the trunnion, or vertical link. We're going to remove that, so 9/16 nut. I think we'll switch out to the small pickle fork or smaller pickle fork, and we'll pop that right off. All right, passenger side is removed. Let's go around to the driver's side, do the same thing. All right, everything is detached, so let's see if I can get that center link out now. I did go ahead and try and make it a little bit easier on myself, just worm things out of here. I did actually remove this little link here, which is the other end of where the steering arm connects to this link. And you can see it's been heavily greased. It looks like somebody's been in here fairly recently, probably to try to fix this steering issue, because you can see the hardware on here. I don't know if you can be able to tell that, but the hardware is quite new actually on these ball joints. So I'm not sure if there was some work attempted to fix the steering. No, they certainly lubricated the heck out of the ball joints for sure. All right, so let's try this, see if we can get this out of here. All right, there you go. There is the link. We'll throw it on the floor and we'll show it to you reassembled, just so you can see what it looks like out of the car. All right, so next steps, we should be able to get this link out here now. It's just a couple bolts here on the outside. We've already loosened one, if you recall, to get the radiator out. And then we're going to work on the steering box side. And there's a few things that need to be undone here. There's a clamp here, clamp up at the bulkhead, and a clamp underneath the dash, as far as I'm aware of, to be able to get that out. And obviously some fasteners on the inside as well, out here, that we actually already undid one again to get the radiator out on this side. So that's partially out already. But anyway, let's concentrate on getting this thing out first, and then we'll go from there. Okay, here are those two fasteners I was talking about you need to remove in order to remove that drop arm. And this area is where the new rack and pinion kit will also bolt up to. So let's get that removed, and we'll save that hardware because I believe we're going to need that. And we'll put that aside. All right, let's do that. All right, those two fasteners are out, and just a quick note, they are two different sizes. The top one is the shorter one, longer one's the bottom one. I'm not sure if that's the actual, what it calls for in the shop manual, but just thought I'd take a quick note of that, just in case we need to know that when we put this back together. So let's move on to removing that drop link. All right, here we go. Technically, this should just lift up and out. I do have a pry bar here if it's jammed in there. Sometimes these can get pretty tight, but this one looks like, yeah, it's going to move easily. Here we go. Again, well greased. No play. This one's in pretty good shape, actually. All right, so let's put that aside. And now we'll go after steering box side. So I think we'll start by undoing this clamp here. I don't know if I showed you that. So there's a clamp here. So we'll undo this clamp, and then we'll work our way up towards the bulkhead. We'll bring you back when we're up there. All right, guys, that bottom clamp has been removed. So we're now moving our way up towards the bulkhead here. So a few things we need to undo here. Now, this column, or this little gaiter here, has to be undone. There's a couple of, there's a hose clamp and a screw here. Alex has a new one of these that he wants to put on anyway, so it's a good thing we're going to remove that. And then we have to remove this clamp here. Now, this to me looks a little suspicious. I don't think this is correct, but let's get it apart and have a look. This looks suspect, I'm going to say. Think of the ones I worked on. And again, I'm just going from memory, and it's been a while since I've worked up in this area, but this does not look correct in my mind. Anyway, we're going to take it apart because we need to. Probably just disconnect this cable, the tack cable temporarily, just to get that out of the way, and reconnect it when we're done. So let's do that. All right, we've got the clamp detached, and we've left the base part on. There's one bolt holding the base on, but I don't think that's going to interfere anything. This could be a stock part. Again, this is a single piece column, and I think I'd mentioned in my previous video there were split columns, so maybe it's different for the split. I'm more used to working on the split columns than I am on the single piece column. Anyway, that boot is detached, and we've See through the bulkhead there. So now we're on to the engine compartment, and the passenger compartment. So I've just removed the nut off the steering wheel. We're going to see if we can get that off without breaking my nose. And now I'll put the nut back on and hit it. So here's the nut for the steering wheel, and it is a 1 5/16" socket. So that goes with that. So let's see if I can get the wheel off easily enough. I have a feeling I'll be able to get it off easily because I don't think it's been on there. I don't know how long it's been on there, but it looks like it's not rusted on the splines or anything. So let me attempt to get that off, and then we'll have to get under the dash, and there is a clamp under the dash that holds the column, and then we're getting pretty close to getting this out. Okay, here we are under the dash. I always like working under the dash in a TR3A much better than something like a TR6 or 250. There's just a lot more room under here and a lot less wires. So there's the clamp we're after. So we're gonna loosen this off, and that should release the column enough for me to pull it out. So we'll go grab some wrenches and do that. And then we'll detach those 2 long bolts that are holding the steering box to the chassis, and we should be able to pull it right out the front of the car. All right, so let me get some wrenches. Looks like 1/2 inch. Okay, now that the clamp is undone underneath the dash, the last thing we need to do is to remove these 2 bolts here that hold the steering box on here at the front. So you can see we partially loosened this one already. As mentioned, that was the one that we needed to loosen to remove the radiator. So let's go after the top one, and then we should be able to pull that box forward. Hopefully we have enough space to get it clear. Anyway, we'll find out shortly, but it's going to come out the front of the car. All right, a bit of a bummer, but it looks like I'm going to have to remove the chassis cross tube because I can't get enough height to lift the box up over the nose of the frame here. It's so close, but the chassis cross tube here gets in the way of me being able to pull this up enough. So that's unfortunate, but I'm gonna have to remove that tube. It's only 6 bolts, but it's not my favorite thing to remove, but we'll have to do it. And maybe we won't have to remove it. I may be able to slacken off the 2 bottom bolts, or take out the 2 bottom bolts, slacken off the top bolt, and just rotate the bar. So we'll try that first, and if that doesn't work, then we'll take the bar the entire way off. But so we need to undo 6 fasteners at least. So let's do that now. They're a bit of a pain to get to. They're visible, but kind of difficult. You have to work on kind of both sides of the car. Anyway, we'll get to it. Okay, we were able to move that chassis cross tube, and we've got those 2 top bolts still on, but we're able to rotate the bar up. Hopefully you can see that. And that's going to give me enough clearance now to get this out the front. So we're just going to pull it forward, support it as we come, all the way out. And there we go. 1 steering shaft and gearbox, worm and peg, removed from the car. That wasn't so bad. Only a couple days. Okay. Good. Happy. All right, there is the old steering assembly removed. So maybe it'll give you a little bit better idea how this thing works. A couple of ball joints here on the ends, on each end, and then the drop arm, and then the steering box, and the silent blocks in the middle. So now we'll get this area cleaned up and get all the old debris and grease out of here. I started scraping some of it out, but we'll give this area a good cleanup. Next thing we need to do now is now go back to the brakes over here, or the brake back plates and the vertical link. And what we'll do is remove that brake dust cover or dust shield, and we'll get to the steering arms in behind there and get those removed off of the vertical link and the caliper mounting plate. So yeah, we're making pretty good progress. So let's move this out of the way, probably stick it under the car over there. I'll give this back to Alex in case he wants to keep it and maybe pass it on to the next owner. Maybe they want to convert back to a stock steering. These are rebuildable if they're not in too bad of a shape. So Alex may want this back, so we'll just keep it for him on the side. All right, on to the next job. All right, we're just about to start on this front end project here with the brake back shield removal, and the caliper mounting bracket needs to come off to get to the steering arm, which is behind. So this brake back shield, or dust shield, or whatever you want to call it, it's actually held on by a little tab here at the back that's held behind a nut. So we'll remove that probably first just to get it out of the way, and then we'll work on the other 3 bolts. They are holding the steering arm. As mentioned, there are a couple spacers back there that you have to be aware of, so just make sure you don't lose those. Grab them as they come off. And I'll bring them back when we're done this side, and then we'll move on to the driver's side. All right, a quick look of that steering arm arrangement here. With you can see a spacer here. I'm not sure what's going on with the yellow paint. Interesting. You can see a spacer here, and there's a spacer on the back. I can't know if you can see that one on the back here as well. So those are held by these 2 top bolts here. So we'll go ahead and remove that now. Brake back shield or dust shield is off. There is that tab that I was talking about. It holds that on there with this fastener here. So there you go. There's the breakdown on this removal. All right, the caliper mounting bracket is off, and there are those 2 spacers at the back on the bolts. Steering arm is there, so this all looks good. We'll give this a fairly good cleanup and degrease while we're here. We're not going to go too crazy. Normally, I would probably paint all these components, but that's a discussion I think I'll have to have with Alex, because obviously there's a cost and time involved in stripping and painting stuff. And I'm not sure whether we're going that far with this car. So anyway, there it is. Strip this side. We'll go to the driver's side and do the same thing. And then we can start unpacking the contents of the box. All right, everything can't go absolutely swimmingly. Sometimes you run into stuck fasteners, particularly these sleeves here end up getting rusted to these bolts pretty often and pretty badly. So right now we've just got some penetrating fluid on it. We've got the nut on the back of the stud. We're just sort of lightly tapping it with a hammer. If that doesn't work, we're going to introduce some heat to it. It's the only fastener I couldn't get out of the 4. So we're working on it. Lots of rounds of, right now, PB Blaster, and spinning it with the impact wrench actually to try to get a little heat into it and to get some of that fluid into the areas that needs to get into to free this bolt. But I've been working at it for about 10 minutes, and it's not giving up the ghost yet. Oh, it's being quite stubborn, so introduce some heat to it. That's not really helping much. So again, we soaked it in penetrating fluid. So the only thing I'm thinking of doing now is coming out through the back, maybe with a air hammer on the end of the bolt with a nut on it, and see if we can buzz it free. Like I said, it's spinning. It's just that collar is rusted solid to the actual bolt itself. So we'll keep trying at it. There's things like these that slow a project down. Success. Gotta love it. So, air hammer to the rescue on the back of that bolt with a nut on it, and we managed to vibrate that loose. So, all right. So, we organize these parts, put some tools away, and do a little cleanup, and then we'll start unpacking the box. All right, let's go from old, crusty, grimy, greasy parts to brand new shiny parts. Okay, we've unpacked the Bastuck rack and pinion kit, and we've gone through the checklist to make sure that we have everything that we need. So we do have the, looks like the upper steering column here at the back. We've got the steering rack. These are the mounts that bolt up to the stock locations on the left and right side that will hold the rack. There is the slip ring that I was talking about that will actually ride on that steering shaft. A couple of different U-joints. This is the lower connection to the pinion on the rack, I believe. Again, I haven't read any instructions yet. I'm just assuming. This is for the steering arms. And remember, there's spacers. And remember, I told you the steering arms need to be reversed. This is probably clamps for the rack. I'm not sure what these are for yet. Tie rod ends, and I believe this is for a fan eliminator kit. If you're going with a completely electric fan, I think you can just get rid of the stock mechanical fan, and that's what that's for. Fan eliminator, they call that. So there are the parts for the steering rack and pinion conversion. So Alex also went with this rigid fan conversion, and I don't have any information on that yet. I don't see any directions or instructions for it, so we'll have to look them up. But here is the rigid fan. So it's a red plastic fan. And that is the part number for it, L97C TR3. And I'm kind of trying to figure out how this goes, but I'm not making too much headway. So this will definitely have to look up. I think this piece goes in here. This probably piece goes on either side of the fan. I have no idea. There's also a little spacer here. This is obviously the crank bolt. And this obviously holds the fan to something, probably this. I don't know. Anyway, we'll figure it out when we get there. So I think the rest of my night will be doing some translation from German to English and just reading through the instructions and making myself comfortable. Some of this stuff I understand already. I've got a pretty good grasp of. The brackets are definitely different than what the Moss kit comes with. These look totally different from my recollection, so that's going to be a little different. Yeah, we're looking forward to doing the install. So we'll probably start the next thing. We'll probably just do a little cleaning around the bottom here, just to clean up this grease and grime from the area we're going to be working in, just to clean this area up a little bit before we start installation. But I think that will be the next step. All right, guys. So this will be the end of part 2. So stay tuned for part 3. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting, and thanks for subscribing. We'll see you on the next video.